I've just got back from 5 weeks of traveling all around Thailand where I made over £36,000 in profit. So I went to places like Phi Phi Island at Samui, and I did scuba diving, I went shooting, and just generally had an amazing trip. And all of this was happening whilst my Amazon business sold over 275 grand worth of products, which made me about 36.6 grand in profit. And the best part is I actually only had to work for about 2 hours every day on my business whilst I was away, because of the systems that I've put in place that allow my Amazon business to continue growing even whilst I'm away. In this video, I'm going to briefly talk about my time in Thailand, catch you guys up with what I got up to, but the main bulk of this video is going to be talking about those systems that I've put in place and how I've structured my business to allow me to live this lifestyle. You can then use that info to replicate what I've done and create this same freedom for yourself. And ultimately, I will get into why Amazon FBA is the best business model if you want the freedom of being anywhere in the world. So let's get into it. So this holiday started out absolutely crazy. It started off with us flying business class to Singapore. It was me and one of my friends. I surprised him with business class tickets. Did a whole video on it, so if you're interested in more and finding out kind of how I did that and what our trip was like, definitely click up here to go and watch that video. And then after we kind of seen the city and recovered from the jet lag, we headed off to Bangkok. So it's only like a 1 hour flight from Singapore to Bangkok, so it's fairly quick getting there. And I stayed at this amazing Airbnb in the State Tower in Bangkok, just by the river, which has an amazing view. We were on the 40th floor, so we had just a crazy view of Bangkok, and being on that balcony was just mind-blowing. After Bangkok, we headed off to Pattaya. One of our friends had also met us out in Bangkok, so it was me and two of my mates. Headed off to Pattaya for 5 days, just stayed in this really nice pool villa, just kind of saw the sights there. It was my two friends' first time in Thailand, and obviously I went last year for quite a while, so I thought it was only right that I kind of bring them to all the kind of major places in Thailand so they get a real taste for what the country is about. So after that, we headed to Samui. We stayed there for 2 weeks, and we stayed in the most mind-blowingly beautiful Airbnb up in the mountains. We had this amazing view of the jungle, we had this infinity pool. The whole place was honestly so nice. We were just kind of messing about in Samui. We were driving around on mopeds and shooting and doing all sorts of stuff like that, and I was still working hard during the day, not just on my Amazon business but also on kind of the new group that I've just taken a management role in, Live Cops, which is, you know, QR code on screen now if you're interested in joining. And then after Samui, we headed off to Phuket, went and bathed with elephants and just saw the sights, and yeah, a beautiful place. And spent a lot of time honestly just going up and down Bangalore Road. If you ever been to Phuket, I'm sure you'll know what I'm talking about. But it's basically where all the parties are, all the bars and just the active stuff. After Phuket, we headed to Phi Phi Island for a few days where we did scuba diving. We went on a boat tour and just generally saw the fire shows and everything the island has to offer. Phi Phi Island is definitely one of my favorite places. I mean, there's no cars, it's just very small streets. It's a very small island, but just the atmosphere there is so great. There's so many other young people there who are traveling, and so many other people doing like scuba diving and stuff like that. And so that takes us about, you know, a month and a bit into my trip. And then after that, we just headed home. We just went to Krabi on the way back, stayed there for a bit, met some really cool guys there, and then jetted off back home. So it wasn't a super long trip. I mean, I was out there for like 5 weeks, so, you know, longer than most people's holidays, I guess. But honestly, I just got a lot to do. I thought it was best to just head back to the UK, lock in, and get prepared for Q4. Because, you know, I'm sure it's probably not on anyone's mind that's watching this video that Christmas is around the corner, but it really is around the corner if you run an e-commerce business. Sales start to heat up as early as mid-September, and lead times for kind of sending stuff in, getting it made available to sell can be kind of quite long for certain product lines. So I'm already just locked in and know that I need to start buying in those toys, buying in those perfumes, and everything that sells well around Christmas. I got to start thinking about that now. But anyway, pretty much the entire holiday I paid for with my Amex points and with my top cashback gift cards. So all the Airbnbs I paid for top cashback, so I basically didn't pay a penny for any of these. And the flights and the Hilton hotel that we stayed at in Singapore was all paid for with my Amex points. So my total kind of spend on that holiday was basically nothing. I mean, I spent like spending money, you know, on drinks and activities and stuff like that, but besides that, the main kind of costs of actually traveling and staying there were all paid for with cash back from my business, which is just, you know, one of the many perks of Amazon FBA. You can be making so much money from the business and never have to actually touch any of the profits. So in terms of profit, I did about £36.6 thousand in profit whilst I was away. And to be honest, these results may sound great to many watching this video, but honestly, these are a bit weaker than I expected. But honestly, it's completely my own fault. Like, I just wasn't really buying enough stock. The only thing in the business that I haven't outsourced fully is the actual purchasing of the stock and the review of the deals, just because I always think it should be me that makes the decisions on what gets purchased. And I just wasn't spending that much time on it, to be honest. I was kind of just enjoying myself a lot of the holiday, as well as just like filming content for you guys and stuff. So I just wasn't too bothered by it. I knew I had enough stock to still make a very nice profit, but I wasn't trying to go like as hard as possible. So my results were a little bit weaker versus like the period before that, but you know, I'm not too bothered. So really the key to running an Amazon FBA business like that is outsourcing. Outsource, outsource, outsource. You want to be outsourcing as many parts of the business as you possibly can. You want to be doing as little work yourself as you can, as outsourcing allows you to buy back that time, which you can then spend doing, you know, maybe you're just doing higher ROI tasks like sourcing new products, or you could be doing what I choose to spend my free time doing, which is traveling the world. Over the past year, I've gone to so many places. If you asked me to name them, I would probably forget some. I go on holiday so much and I'm so blessed to be able to do so, and it's all from just outsourcing. Over the last year, I mean, I've been to New York, Paris, Egypt, Singapore, so many other places that, you know, to some it would take ages to save up to go to these places, and they have to book off work years in advance. I don't have to worry about any of that. I just hop on a plane and I'm there, and it's not a concern. As long as I've got my laptop and an internet connection, I can kind of just be anywhere. The business still thrives, you know, because I've still got people sourcing for me. I've still got people prepping for me in the UK. I've still got my admin VAs working to make sure every single unit's accounted for. I've got them handling my customer returns. I don't have to do any of that myself. So let's talk about prep first of all. So prep is the kind of process of labeling boxes, labeling items, sending it all to Amazon. And though it's a fairly simple process, when you're selling thousands and thousands of units a month, it can get really, really time consuming. Not to mention like space wise, if you're trying to do this in like a small flat like I live in the UK normally, it gets really, really hard because, you know, boxes are big. I had like 5 pallets delivered the other day. There's no way that I could deal with that all myself. And that's why from very early on, it was actually the very first thing that I outsourced. I outsourced it mostly to a company called All Things Prep. And basically I just send everything to their warehouse. I tell them what's supposed to arrive. They make sure that everything has actually arrived first of all, and then they label it up, pack it all up, send it off to Amazon, and they do all of this for me, and I have to give them very little information. And there is no way that I could travel the world without outsourcing this. It's like the most important step, because it means that no matter where I am in the world, I can still be getting stock sent into Amazon, and I'm not coming home to an absolute mountain of boxes to deal with. And then let's talk about sourcing. So this is where most sellers' time goes, right? Sourcing can be really, really time consuming, especially with certain kind of more standard methods like manual sourcing and storefronting. So I have a team of VAs in the Philippines. I actually currently have 3 sourcing VAs, 2 are full-time and 1's part-time, and they're constantly working 9 to 5 days a week to find me products to sell. Because they're based in the Philippines, their base salary is only about £300 per month, which is, you know, much more affordable than employing people in the UK. But I do actually pay my VAs really well. I mean, there are some months where some of my VAs have made up to £2,000 in a month, which is above UK minimum wage. And they're out in the Philippines, you know, earning that money from a remote job in the Philippines is like being a millionaire and making like 6 figures. And I do that because it keeps them extremely motivated. I mean, some of my VAs, I try to give them days off or like a week off because I kind of can't be asked to hold up my end of the bargain and purchase the stock, and they just don't want to go on a break. They don't want to stop working because they know that they'll get paid so much more if they just work hard and find me amazing products. I've also trained all of my VAs through my own mentorship program, so they're up to speed on my kind of secret sourcing techniques, so they know what they're doing. And though I kind of was dossing about a little bit in Thailand, I wasn't really buying too many of their deals, I was kind of keeping an eye on the sheet, and if I saw anything really, really good, I would take the time out my day to kind of buy that deal. And then I've got my admin VA team. So I've got 2 admin VAs. One is just kind of the general, you know, genius who does everything. And then I've got 1 VA who's kind of like the sub VA of my other VA. And they deal with just mainly the customer returns. So they do so many different things for me. They do all the shipment reconciliation. So basically what that means is, has every single unit I bought arrived at the prep center and then arrived at Amazon and then been checked in and made available to sale. Because, you know, if something goes missing along the way, especially if it's an expensive item, that really starts to eat into your profit. They also deal with all the return side of things, like I mentioned, so I never have to worry about kind of what I'm doing with these various returns. They deal with my aging inventory, so they'll go through if there's any kind of sellers that maybe weren't selling as quick as I expected, they might go through and lower the prices on those to get them gone. They'll also be collecting invoices for me, so I have all that for my tax returns. Just so many other small tasks like chasing up cash back, really just everything. I mean, I have to do so little nowadays, it is amazing. You know, shout out my admin VAs. I couldn't run this business without them, not with kind of how I want to live my life. And this saves me so much time. It allows me to spend more time just enjoying this lifestyle, and also, you know, when I'm at home and a bit more locked in, it allows me to actually source products and spend more time purchasing, as well as my other businesses, you know, like running Life Corps, running the mentorship program. All this stuff, you know, it does get time consuming, and if I was spending all my time doing the most boring admin tasks, I probably wouldn't have time to do all this other stuff. As I said earlier, the only thing I do now is just the final deal analysis and the purchasing, because I just don't see myself ever outsourcing that. So let's talk about why Amazon FBA is the best business model to be doing if you love traveling or want to see the world just like I do. So obviously there's the outsourcing factor that, you know, we've already talked about. It's very easy to offload a lot of the workload off the business to other people. Now obviously that is great. That frees up your time. It frees up where you can kind of be in the world. You don't necessarily have to be in the UK, you know, receiving boxes and prepping all this stock. But you know, traveling is still expensive, especially when you're staying in 5-star hotels and you're flying business class and you're doing all this fancy rich people shit. It really does add up, you know, at least if you are paying for that with regular money. And that is where Amex points and top cashback come in. So let's talk about Amex first of all. So Amex, aka American Express, is a credit card that you can apply for. And essentially with Amex, it's very simple. You get 1 Amex point for every £1 that you spend on stock. So for example, 100,000 Amex points would be equivalent to spending £100,000. Now the regular redemption rate, I believe off the top of my head, is 1,000 points for £4.50, which is, it's all right, you know, spend £1,000, you get back £4.50. Better than nothing, but it's not great. But because Amex is partnered with loads of airlines and hotel partners like Hilton, hence why you always see me staying at Hilton hotels, that redemption rate is greatly increased. With Hilton, for example, the points are worth 2 or 3 times more, and I think with flights it can be even higher than that. So whenever you see me flying business class or staying in these super nice Hilton properties and stuff like that, I'm never paying for it. I'm literally never paying for it. It's always just with my Amex points. And Amex as well is a credit card, so you also get a little boost to your cash flow because you're getting that credit, but it's very, very important that you do pay it off in full each month, because the interest would just destroy your profits. You cannot hold a balance on these cards. You've got to pay them off in full each month. That is a non-negotiable thing. And now let's talk about Top Cashback. So Top Cashback works so well with what I do. So I do online arbitrage, if you don't know, where I'm just buying from retailers' websites. Standard places like Argos, Smiths, Asda, and obviously lesser known retailers as well. But loads and loads of retailers, even the big name ones like Argos and stuff like that, they're signed up to cashback schemes. And basically the way it works is cashback websites like Top Cashback sort of advertise that retailer, and in return, any customers that they bring to that retailer, they get a bit of a kickback. But here's where it gets good, right? It's not just Top Cashback that gets a share of that kickback. You actually get some as well. And some websites like Argos and Currys, they're fairly low rates. You're only over getting like 1 or 2%, but still, that does add up when you're spending thousands of pounds per month. I've seen websites as high as 30% cashback, which is absolutely ridiculous. I mean, if you spent £1,000 on a website where, you know, the deal's already going to be good, right? You're not factoring in that cashback into your profits. You never do that. It's not how it works in Amazon. The cashback is always just a bonus on top of it. Now, this cashback, you can just withdraw it straight to your bank account for free, you know, for the exact same amount that you get. But it gets even better. If you cash it out to certain gift card partners, a bit similar to Amex, you get a bonus on top. So Airbnb, for example, you get a 6% bonus. So all of the cashback that I've been saving up, I just cashed it out to Airbnb gift cards. And in fact, I had so much cashback, I've still got like 500 quid in Airbnb gift cards that I never actually ended up using. And there are hundreds and hundreds of websites that are signed up to that cashback scheme. So there are so many places you can get these bonuses from. And you can combine them as well, right? I use my Amex card and I get the cashback on top of it. So on average, with the Amex card, you're getting about 1 to 3% back, depending on how you redeem your points. But then on top of that, if you're getting a 10% cashback as well, that's such a discount. It's such a bonus that can go towards traveling the world or whatever you want to do. It's brilliant. At the end of the day, you know, money's one thing. It's great having lots of nice numbers on the screen, but you know, what's the point in having money if you don't experience life and go and see the world? So there you have it. That is exactly how I made £36,000 in profit in 5 weeks whilst I was traveling around Thailand. And this wasn't a one-off. I actually made £47,000 when I was in Thailand last year. I'm sure that was over 3 months. You know, I've come a long way since, scaled up my numbers, but it just goes to show it's easily possible. So I've given a lot of information about kind of the processes in my business and the systems that I have in place in this video. And these systems allow me to see the world and live the lifestyle I want to experience, also while my Amazon business is thriving without my constant input. Now, these are the same systems that I encourage all of my mentorship students to implement. After all, you know, there's no point in making 5 figures in profit a month if you can't spend time and money on experiences that enrich your life. Inside my mentorship program, you guys can also gain access to 12 hours of one-to-one calls, regular group sessions, exclusive product leads, and 10 hours of tutorials and so much more. So if you want to build an Amazon business that allows you to see the world without constantly worrying about your work or your bank account, click the first link in the video description down below to book in a free consultation call with me today. Finally, make sure you guys like and subscribe if you found this video useful, and click up here to watch my video on a day in the life of me in Thailand so you can see for yourself what I got up to whilst I was working so little.